Hey folks, John with Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in the computer business. So I hope you guys are enjoying your quarantines and lockdowns. Apparently we just got locked down yesterday in our city. Fortunately my studio is connected, so it's pretty easy to get to everything. But I figure what the heck, what a great time to knock out one of those Facebook scroll items and maybe do a little project at the same time. So let me show you what I got in mind. You may get a kick out of this one, guys. Here we go again. Okay, folks, so, normally when we do these little projects, and I'm talking about like those little solder kits that we do all the time, there's always a few things that you have to have in order to do these solder kits, right? Like you always got to go and you gotta break out your solder kit, and sometimes when you're doing this stuff, if you need to change out HDMI cables, you got to go down and break out your heat gun and all your attachments, and then of course you got to break out your toolkit for everything that you're going to do on top of the solder and everything else. Well, this company promises to have consolidated all of this and the tools into one package. This is what I'm curious about. So let's take a look at what we've got to work with. All right, guys, so this is the SMD Rework Station is what they call. And from what I understand, this is supposed to consolidate a really good soldering iron into a really good hot air gun in order to bring it all into one kit. So, you know how it is, I'm a little bit skeptical about this one, but you know what? I'm willing to give everything a chance. So let's go ahead and crack this open and let's see what's in this box, shall we? And I got Stumpy focused down here on it, so you guys should be able to see it. By the way, something that was interesting, if you look at this box, I'm pretty sure this came from Korea, but somebody has drawn little pictures on it. So I got little frowny faces and smiley faces and mushrooms and all kinds of weird stuff. So I'm not entirely sure what they were doing, but somebody had fun with it, that's for sure. All right, so let's crack this open and see what we got in this box here. All right, right off the bat, it is pretty well sealed. All right. Oh, yeah, guys, let's see. I'm going to get Stumpy aimed in here so you guys can see this. This is, looks pretty heavy duty. We'll take a look at this. All right, so right off the bat, we've got the user manual here. It looks like it is in English, and it looks like it's pretty basic. It says here the power consumption for the LED indicator and light. That's interesting. Temperature range 100 to 450 degrees. So that's pretty good for most basic soldering. All right, so we've got a hot air gun, whatever, Benzod Fever, pure original hot air parts. Not sure what that is. Anybody read that language? Pretty sure I don't. All right. And looks like we've got a lot of solder tips, guys. Now that's kind of nice. For those of you who know, when you're soldering, you could be soldering a standard, large solder, and it's not too much trouble to use the little generic tips that come with these. But occasionally, when you're soldering those little tiny pieces, you need different tips. So it's kind of nice to see that they actually included this in this bag. So, all right, get that out of there. And that looks like the base. Actually, it looks an awful lot like that right there, guys. What do you think? Pretty close. All right, and it's got a little sponge in it. And by little sponge, I mean little sponge. That's kind of small. We may end up replacing that with a chunk of this bigger one over here. All right, looks like we got a roll of solder that comes in it. This is 2% flux. Not bad. Usually I use a little higher than that, but we'll see what we got. That appears to be some sort of a, looks like an antenna. Okay, I guess we shall see. There's a bunch of tools down in here. And we got a bunch of picks and assorted little brushes and cleaning tools for soldering. Once again, pretty nice. Now what I'm expecting here also, and I don't know if it's actually in here or not, they advertise this also because I do a lot of cell phone screen repairs and tablet screen replacements and all that. So I'm hoping they've got a set of plastic kit tools in here. We're going to take a look and see. All right, looks like we got a solder pump. Those of you who know what that is. That's real simple. You heat up the solder, put this on it, suck the solder out. That's how you desolder. Well, sometimes. And it looks like we got a lot of loose tools here. Looks like kind of like tweezers Yep, and this is an interesting wire, guys. I'm not sure what this is. Looks like we got 3 leads to it and know where it goes. So, once again, curious to see what that is. This may be a bigger project than we thought, right? All right, power cable. All right, getting on down here. That looks like the, okay, that's gonna, oh, I know what these are. These are the nozzles to reduce the size when you're using a hot air gun. So you're not putting out a stream this big when you can, make it a lot smaller. You don't end up melting a lot of components around it, which is really good. So that's what those are. All right, that looks like the soldering iron itself. There we go. And it feels like pretty good quality, so I'm pretty happy about that. We'll see. Now this is the heat gun. All right, guys, so once again, I'm going to show Stumpy this. This looks pretty solid, actually. I'm going to pull this out of the bag, because this is the part I was curious about. Anybody can make a soldering iron, but a heat gun, you want to be real careful and make sure it's real high quality, and this feels really nice. Looks like it's got a standard 9-pin connector on it, and actually that does. And as you can see, guys, this comes out, I'd say that's probably about 3/4 of an inch, and this will reduce it down to a 1/4 inch, so you can get that heat into a nice confined area. So that's pretty nice. All right, looks like we got a couple of stands here. That would be for the heat gun. There's a couple screws on it, so that's probably for the side for the heat gun. And here's the solder station itself. And we're going to crack this open here so we can give Stumpy a good look at what it looks like. Once again, guys, this has got some weight to it. It feels really heavy. TXINLEI, that's what it's called, a TXINLEI 8586. And it looks like you can turn either your air on or you can turn your solder station on independently, which is kind of cool. Adjusting your temperature here. Those look like calibrations of some sort. We'll have to see what that's all about. And then a main power and a fuse on the back. So that's all there is to that. Okay, and what else we got in here? And one more nozzle. Oh yeah, that'll take it down to about that's probably 1/8 of an inch. So that's nice too. Okay, I think that's it in here. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm gonna get the bags off of these real quick, and we'll get this thing assembled and see what it looks like. Hang tight. And guys, one thing I wanted to show you as I was unboxing this, check out this little heater core here. That's pretty cool. And it occurred to me that that's probably what these little 3-wire thing was we ran into. I'm willing to bet that that is probably some sort of a thermometer or something to read that air temperature. And given the fact that the colors match up, I'm almost 99% sure that's what that is. So, all right, continuing on. Be right back. Okay, guys, so one thing I want to show you on Stumpy here. When I was looking through the instructions to assemble this, it was talking about it being able to replace the thermometer and the heater core that's already in here. Apparently, it's already installed in here, as you can see. And the fan's already installed, everything is already mounted and ready to go, which means that the parts that they ship you are replacement parts, which is great because, most companies don't do this anymore. They don't send you extras of this stuff. So we're going to hold on to those replacement parts in case we ever need them again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue. I wanted to break and show you guys that because I thought that was pretty fascinating the way they did that. So we're going to reassemble. Hang tight. All right, guys, so here you are. This is your assembled soldering iron station. As you can see, it looks pretty nice. I got to tell you, the weight on this thing is pretty impressive. It's actually all metal, with the exception of, obviously, the soldering iron holder here and the bracket on the side. But the case itself, it's all metal. It really is, and it's heavy, heavy duty. So you know what? Let's test this thing out. So I picked up, those little project kits we do? Well, I picked up this little shaking dice kit. All right, so apparently what this is it just gives you a random dice generator. So let's crack this open and we're going to break this station in and see if it works. Now, as I'm setting up over here, one thing I did notice, the power cable on this is kind of short, guys. It's about a 3-foot cable. Not a big problem, but I typically like to have a 6-footer because my plugs are located a little bit everywhere here. So let's go ahead and we're going to plug this thing in and fire up that soldering iron, see how long it takes to heat up. That's what I'm curious about. And while we're doing that, we'll go ahead and go through the solder kit that we're going to be doing. All right, we'll plug that in right there, and the power is currently on. And I'm going to see if I can get Stumpy over here to show you guys this cool little LED it's got going on here. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to turn on the soldering iron. And as you can see, it's heating. And we set our temperature to wherever we want it. I'm going to go ahead and set it for 450 just to see how quickly it gets up there. And I believe that this is how... Oh, you can actually set individual temperatures. So it's going to go ahead and go up to 450 now. So I'm going to, while I'm uncrating all this stuff, I'm going to leave this on here. Let's see how long it takes to actually get to that 450 mark. I'm actually kind of curious about that. All right, guys, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start on this kit. It looks like for some reason the screen is reading 3 dashes across, which by the instruction said that's standby mode. But the soldering iron is hot, and it heated up really, really fast, guys. I mean, we're talking probably a matter of 20 seconds or so. So we'll see how that works out. Let's get our little helping hands guy here. And we're going to go ahead and check out this kit that we've got. Let me reposition Stumpy. And we'll see if that really makes a difference. I don't think it should, but we'll know here shortly. All right, so in this kit, there's only a few components to this guy, so it ought to be nice and quick for us. It's got what looks like 2 little 6-sided die, which I think is kind of interesting, connected together. And as you can see, there are some capacitor and resistor attachments on here, as well as some LEDs. You've got your resistors here. And in here you can see you've got a little capacitor. You've got a, that's interesting, that's a CR2032 battery, so I hope I've got one of those floating here. I'm pretty sure I do. Along with a couple of ICs. Actually, you've got an IC socket and an IC. That's kind of cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start assembling this. And as I usually do, on all of the resistors out of the way first. So we're going to go ahead and get those soldered, assuming our soldering station is ready to go. All right, guys, and I'm going to go ahead and keep Stumpy focused on this. I'm going to try to zoom in as much as I can and try not to get in the way of this. I know it can be a little difficult when you're trying to solder and do this at the same time. So as you can see on the board here, the resistors are labeled. So R1, R3, R4. You can see actually all that on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to position the resistors on here, and we're going to bend them out a little bit in the back. Now they're not polarized, so it doesn't matter which direction you go on these. But if you try to get them all the same direction, your project will turn out looking quite a bit better. So you just poke that through there like that, and then bend out your arms a little bit. All right. We're going to go ahead and rinse and repeat that on all of them. Here we go. All right, so as you can see, we've got all of our resistors in there, and they're more or less going the same direction. We had a couple of them that were actually mounted vertical, but that's okay. They'll look fine. In this kit, there was one that was a little bit different, and that had to be an R8, but we got that taken care of. So, as you can see, I've got all the pins bent out back here. Let's go ahead and give our new solder gun a test, shall we? All right, guys, so as you can see, we got our first solders done there, and they turned out very, very nice. I got to tell you, I like the fine tip that comes on this thing as default, especially when you're soldering things that have pads that are this close together. So that's actually pretty cool. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and now that we've got all our resistors in, we're going to move on to our capacitors. Hang tight. All right, so next I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wire up the LEDs. They seem to be a little more obvious where they're placed on here, and since the instructions are not super clear, we're going to go ahead and do those first, because you actually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 LEDs right here, and looks like that's exactly how many we have. So let's go ahead and get those put in, and then we'll move to the next step. All right, so as you can see now, we have all of our LEDs in, and we have all of our resistors in. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to mount that IC socket. All right. Now, the socket itself, it doesn't really matter which way you mount it as long as you can remember which side for the chip. That does matter, because if you look at the chip, it's got a little divot in it, and that little divot has to match up here to the front. But as you can see, the socket itself doesn't have any indication on it. So, all right, we're going to slide that in there. And boy, you can see how, I don't know if you guys can see that, how small those pins are, how it barely sticks through. We're going to use our little helping hands guy. Hopefully he can hold on to these. I'm not sure he can. If not, what we're going to have to do is get creative here. So, all right, hopefully Stumpy can see what I've got there. What I did is I pushed the IC socket through, and then I braced it on this solder core here. So hopefully, if we can just get one pin soldered, we should be able to pull it off and finish. But they are all up through there right now, which is what counts. So let's go ahead and see if we can get one pin done here. There we go. All right, so now that should hold for us. Yeah, there you go. All right, so now that that's in place, we can go ahead and solder the rest of it. So now, as you can see, we've got the IC socket slotted in here, and it's all nice and flat where it needs to be, so that's a good thing. We're going to go ahead and mount this battery socket, and let's see here, I believe it goes right here. And it is polarized, but you can't really mount it wrong. That's kind of one nice thing about this positioning. And once again, this is going to be one of those tough ones to get, because you can't really hold it in place while you're soldering. So we're going to try to get creative here again. And see if we can get a good solder on one pin so we can move to the next one. Here we go. And guys, please excuse me if one thing I'll tell you, it is really tough to solder over your shoulder like this while I'm trying to keep the camera up. So if the soldering is ugly or you're getting kind of a funky picture over there, I am doing my very best. I'm sorry about that. But I wanted to see everything. And as you guys can see, by the way, this soldering iron is working fantastic. So. Alright, so now we've got that mounted, and it's in place. Looking good. I might actually go ahead and drop that down a tad bit more. There we go. Perfect. That's where we want it. Alright, so we've got that mounted. We're going to go ahead and get the capacitors installed. Now, on capacitors, I believe this one's actually only got this one capacitor. I'm pretty sure. I'll verify that. It looks like it. And you want to always remember that on the capacitors, the long end on these is actually positive. And these are polarized. And if you look down here, the capacitors, it will actually say positive right there. So you want to go in like that. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get that soldered in place. And as you can see, it's actually better leaving it on that table for me right now because it's holding it in place while I solder. So. There we go. And there we go. All right, trim those off real quick. By the way, you guys do these kits, one thing to remember, when you're trimming off these little ends, be real careful. They will go flying across the room, so be real careful of that. All right, so now that we've got the capacitor mounted and everything else is mounted up on this board, we're going to go ahead and put in the IC chip, keeping in mind to look where that notch is, guys. That is critically important. All right, as you can see, the notch on this chip is right there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull that out and put that in right there. Be real careful here, guys. Sometimes if the pins are a little too far out, and hopefully Stumpy's getting a view of that, you want to be real careful when you put this in and not bend the pins. So what you can do is take the chip and put it on a flat surface and bend them in just a tiny bit, okay, like that. And then what that'll do is it'll allow you to get it into that socket. And once again, guys, watch that polarity on this. That little notch is important. There we go. And our pins are in. And then we just shove her down in place. Slow and steady. There we go. All right, so now we've got our chip mounted. All right, so now the next step is going to go ahead and be to assemble this whole thing. So we're going to go ahead and get this assembled here. Alright guys, and there it is. Completed little kit. And I was right, this actually pulls power up through these rails to power the top here. So I'm curious to see how this works. So if only I had a CR2032 battery. I wonder where I might find a BIOS battery. What do you guys think? Think I can snipe one off this wall? Bet I can. Hang tight. And just like that, there it is, CR2032. All right, so we're going to go ahead and mount this in here, and I believe that this is going to mount upside down. So let's mount this in here and see what this does, if anything. All right, so as you can see, the little LEDs came on. Now what this is supposed to do, that rolled a 2. When you shake it, it's supposed to start going randomly and give you a number. So let's shake it. There we go. And that gave us a 4. And now it's going randomized again. And hopefully you're picking this up. That gave us a 2. And shake it again. There you go. Pretty cool, right? Little cheesy kit. Supposedly it settles down. It only responds when you shake it. So I think that's pretty nifty. I like that. Yeah, pretty neat, guys. All right, so let's talk about the solder gun, or the solder kit here. It's great. The solder iron heated up perfectly. It worked perfectly every single time. I do like that default tip they left on there. I didn't have any problems with that at all. In fact, it did a very good job. As you can see, it actually tinned up perfectly. So, which is really nice when you're soldering those small connections. I still don't know, guys, and I'm going to get Stumpy aimed at this, why we are still getting a reading on this thing of these 3 little dashes. It seems to think that has to do with setting the temperature. Now, what I'm wondering is if that's not the temperature of this and not the temperature of the soldering iron. The soldering iron is set here. There's only one way to find that out, right? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to turn off the soldering iron. I'm going to move little helping hands guy in our cool little kit. By the way, if you guys are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, for those of you who don't know, I keep all of these little kits that I build. Somewhere around here I've got the other one that's the music game. But you can see the little digital bug we built. You can see the dice we built. I keep all these here. So if you want to come by, look at that. Okay, that is awesome. That's so cool, I'm actually going to put a new battery in it because you can tell that one's a little dim. But I keep them, so if you want to see them, come on by and check it out. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and move him up here. Let's set this temperature, and we'll set it at, I had it at 450, I believe. Yeah, 450. Let's turn this one up, because right now it's at 7. Let's turn on the air gun. Ah, there you go, guys. Are you seeing that? That's the answer right there. Oh, yeah, that's putting out a lot of air. This must be the speed. Got it. There it is. See what I get for, well, I would say not reading the instructions. There were none in the box, so that makes it a little challenging. So, this knob sets the speed, as you can hear. I'm going to get him up here so you can hear it. There you go. And these set the temperature. So right now we're set at 450. And I can tell you that's 450 easily. So that's pretty darn nice. And the fact that it's handheld and small, you can add on these smaller attachments to shrink that little beam down, is fantastic. So, very cool. And that turner off. And down it goes. Now, I did read in one place, and I pulled this up online, that if you heat this up, okay, when you turn it off, it will continue the fan blowing through until it cools all the way down. Keep that in mind. A lot of people thought that it was going to burn their house down or something, but it will not. If you just take it on down, it'll go all the way down and shut itself off. All right, and once it gets below that 100-degree mark, this will turn off. Set that right over there and keep an eye on it. And too, man, it looks real professional. Very, very nice. In fact, I wonder. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Now it's pointing up and not down at your table. Much better idea. So let's talk about the TXINLEI 8586 solder station. No complaints. It definitely does what it says it's going to do. It ends up replacing. At least 3 items with 1. So this is going to be in my new permanent bench soldering station. No question of it. I'll put a link to this down here in the bottom. It's really cool, guys. You're going to want to check that out. They're not very expensive either. I was actually pretty impressed. And I was going to go out and get in fact I may, I saw a couple of those desoldering guns. Oh, by the way, listen, it turned off. That's awesome. So when it gets to that 100-degree threshold, cools it down, shuts it off. Pretty neat. I'm impressed. Not bad at all. All right, so I'm going to be getting one of those, or at least one, maybe 2 of those desoldering guns. Not the heat it up and pump the stuff, but an actual desoldering gun. I'm going to test those shortly too, because that seems to be a tough one to find in quality. So we'll see what we can do. Well, listen, thanks again for watching, guys. I hope everybody stays very, very safe out there. I know how fun this can be being locked up. It's a pain in the butt, but we're going to get through it together like we always do. Stay safe. We'll see you on the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.